Have you ever wondered if something as simple as your daily meals could be silently jeopardizing your health? Too often, our choices are guided by habit, convenience, or even by misleading health claims on product packaging. The foods we eat might appear innocent. Some are even recommended by acquaintances or media sources. But beneath their glossy surfaces, they could be the culprits accelerating complications of chronic illnesses like diabetes. If you or someone you love lives with diabetes, understanding which foods to avoid might be the difference between vibrant health and a struggle with relentless symptoms. Let's delve deep into this critical subject and uncover the foods that are silently sabotaging your well-being.
Picture waking up each morning convinced that your breakfast is wholesome and safe, or that your snacks are benign treats you've earned after a long day. You mix up a quick sandwich with white bread, grab a glass of juice with a reassuring, no added sugars label, or reach for a granola bar promising health benefits and energy. It feels responsible. It feels healthy. Yet, beneath this sense of security may lurk subtle threats. The trouble is, many of these foods wear deceptive masks, camouflaging their true impact on your blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, and long-term metabolic health. A closer look at nutrition labels and ingredient lists can reveal a different story, one where everyday foods become villains, steadily pushing your glycemic control off track. To safeguard your health, it's crucial to recognize these enemies, understand why they're dangerous, and learn how to swap them out for smarter, more satisfying choices. Let's walk through the 7 worst foods for anyone managing diabetes and unravel why each one poses a unique threat to your body. First on our list, highly processed foods. These are the cakes, cookies, packaged snacks, and savory pastries that line supermarket aisles with irresistible promise. They're quick, tasty, and seemingly harmless in small quantities. But behind their appealing flavors lie hidden dangers. Ultra-processed foods tend to be loaded with added sugars and hydrogenated fats. Sugar, in its many forms, can drive abrupt spikes in your blood glucose levels, leading to sharp swings between hyperglycemia and crashes that leave you fatigued and irritable. Worse still, hydrogenated fats, or trans fats, disrupt the action of insulin, making it more difficult for your body to process glucose efficiently. Over time, these sharp cycles put tremendous strain on your pancreas, fostering insulin resistance, the core defect in type 2 diabetes, and accelerating complications such as nerve damage, vision issues, and cardiovascular disease. Processed snack foods might promise convenience, but their real legacy is metabolic chaos. Next, consider the colorful, fizzy world of sodas and bottled juices. Even those proudly labeled as diet or zero sugar might not be as safe as you think. Regular sodas and sweetened juices are loaded with simple sugars, like high fructose corn syrup or sucrose, that are rapidly absorbed, flooding your bloodstream with glucose. For a body already struggling to regulate sugar, this spells trouble. Even artificially sweetened beverages can disrupt delicate microbial balances in your gut, damaging your microbiota. Some recent studies suggest that certain artificial sweeteners may still provoke an insulin response or worsen overall glycemic control by interfering with your body's natural glucose and appetite signals. For people with diabetes, every glass matters. No matter how refreshing or convenient, these drinks are best left behind in search of truly hydrating alternatives. White bread and refined pasta, though everyday staples in many homes, are our third major offenders. Made from processed wheat flour stripped of fiber and nutrients, these foods break down rapidly during digestion, transforming nearly instantly into sugar in your bloodstream. The result? Sharp lifts in postprandial glucose, your after-meal blood sugar levels, followed by increased hunger and cravings. Unlike whole grains, which are digested slowly and steadily, white bread and refined pasta offer little nutritional value beyond empty calories. They provide swift energy at the cost of metabolic stability, undermining your efforts to maintain healthy glycemic balance. Rice, particularly the ubiquitous white variety, may seem a humble staple, almost universally regarded as a healthy pairing for vegetables and proteins. But not all rice is created equal. White rice has been milled and polished, removing the fibrous outer bran and nutritious germ, leaving only the starchy core. This dramatically raises its glycemic index, meaning it's absorbed in a hurry and turns into a glucose surge soon after eating. Regular consumption of white rice has been associated, in population studies, with higher rates of type 2 diabetes. For people already living with diabetes, the dramatic spikes triggered by a serving of white rice make it a risky choice in a balanced meal plan. Desserts and sweet treats are a struggle for almost everyone, but for people with diabetes, the stakes are higher. Traditional sweets, cakes, candies, chocolates, and pastries are often dense sources of refined sugar and sometimes processed fats. Even modest portions can send your blood sugar skyrocketing. The immediate effect is hyperglycemia, which can cause thirst, fatigue, and mental fog, and, if repeated often enough, contributes to longer-term tissue damage throughout your body. Even low-sugar or diabetes-friendly versions may not be safe, as manufacturers often replace sugar with other forms of rapidly absorbed carbohydrates. For those working to keep their glycemic levels in a safe range, habitual indulgence in sweets can feel like a constant trap. Fried foods and fast food dishes, abundant in restaurants and takeout menus, appeal to our senses with crispiness and flavor. But they're a double-edged sword. Deep-fried foods and typical fast food meals are packed with saturated fats, trans fats, and excessive salt. For people with diabetes, a high-fat, high-salt diet increases the risk of developing resistance to insulin, compounding the primary problem of the disease. In addition, these foods foster systemic inflammation, a subtle but damaging process that can accelerate the onset of cardiovascular diseases, kidney dysfunction, and nerve damage. The short-term satisfaction offered by crispy fries or a quick burger is more than offset by the long-term harm to your metabolic health. The final surprise on this list? Honey and so-called natural sweeteners such as agave syrup. In stores and health blogs alike, these sweeteners are often portrayed as wholesome alternatives to table sugar. They do come from natural sources, and in moderation, they may even offer trace micronutrients. However, from a glycemic perspective, honey, agave, and similar syrups remain potent sources of simple sugars that have the same, if not higher, glucose-raising power as refined sugar. For people with diabetes, the body cannot distinguish much between a spoonful of honey and a spoonful of sugar when it comes to blood glucose impact. These sweets may seem more natural, but they can be every bit as problematic when it comes to glycemic control. The science is clear, but the consequences of these quasi-hidden dangers are perhaps best summarized by the experts. Dr. Fernanda Lemos, a respected endocrinologist, makes a pointed observation. The major mistake is believing that only sugar influences diabetes. Refined flours and trans fats can be just as, or even more, hazardous as they compromise long-term metabolic management. Her warning underscores a broader truth. Controlling diabetes isn't simply about avoiding sugar. It requires vigilance over all sources of rapidly absorbed carbohydrates and harmful fats lurking in your daily meals. Clinical nutritionist Rodrigo Martins adds an important practical tip. Foods marketed as fitness or light aren't always safe for people with diabetes. Reading labels is essential, especially checking the amount of net carbs and hidden sugars. Many shoppers are unwittingly deceived by clever marketing, believing that products with no added sugar, low fat, or whole grain labels automatically belong in a diabetes-friendly diet. The reality is less comforting. Manufacturers often make up for the removal of one unhealthy ingredient by increasing another. The only reliable solution is to become an informed consumer, developing the habits of label literacy and cautious ingredient selection. So, you might be asking yourself, if these foods are so problematic, what's left? Are you doomed to a bland, joyless diet in the name of health? Not at all. In fact, the road to sustainable, delicious eating with diabetes is rich with possibility. There are flavorful, nutrient-dense foods, whole, unprocessed, and naturally low on the glycemic scale. that can replace their harmful counterparts without sacrificing pleasure or satisfaction. Some even possess natural compounds that can gently support glucose control, offering an added layer of protection and peace of mind. Here's where curiosity leads us to the next frontier: the question of substitution and smart swaps. If you're waving goodbye to white bread, what can you use to fill your sandwich? If sodas and juices are out, what can you sip throughout the day to stay refreshed? If your family is used to rich desserts and the occasional fast food meal, how can you craft alternatives that are both healthful and satisfying? And is there a natural ingredient, perhaps a spice, a plant, or a traditional remedy, that can safely aid your quest for better glycemic control, free from unwanted side effects? The search for answers opens up a world not of deprivation, but of discovery. As you reflect upon this list of dietary villains, recognize that every decision you make at the table is a step toward your long-term health. The process of managing diabetes, a condition that touches millions and impacts quality of life every day, is not simply a matter of willpower or self-denial. It's about gathering accurate information, challenging persistent myths, and making practical, incremental changes rooted in compassion for yourself or your loved ones. While it's tempting to view diabetes management through a lens of rigid restriction, the truth is that knowledge brings freedom. The more you understand about the foods you consume, the better equipped you are to negotiate life's countless choices while enjoying delicious, vibrant meals. Avoiding the most dangerous foods for diabetes isn't only about limiting sugar. It's about recognizing the broader web of processed carbohydrates, unhealthy fats, and hidden sugars that can undermine your hard work. Whether you shop in markets large or small, cook large meals or simple snacks, the path to better health always begins at home, with conscious choices and a willingness to seek out real, whole foods. The most critical battlefield for your health is not in the pharmacy or the doctor's office, but right in your kitchen and at your dining table. Beyond numbers and recommendations lies a core truth. The journey toward wellness is shaped, meal by meal, by the food you choose to put on your plate. Never underestimate the importance of even small shifts in your diet. Replacing one processed food with a whole food alternative, cutting out a daily sweetened drink, or swapping white rice for quinoa or brown rice can quickly add up to profound changes in your energy, well-being, and medical results. Diabetes does not have to define your life, nor does it require a bland or joyless existence. Once you know the true enemies threatening your blood sugar, you're empowered to create a new reality with every meal you prepare. So take this knowledge as your guide. The enemies of glycemic control are numerous, but not invincible. They often hide in plain sight, but you now know where to look and why it matters. Remember that the health you enjoy tomorrow depends on the choices you make today, and that every smart swap, every step toward whole and natural food, is a victory. As you stand at this crossroads, ask yourself, what will you choose to include and exclude in your next meal? If you're eager to dive deeper and discover which delicious substitutions can replace these harmful foods without sacrificing the pleasures of eating, or learn about natural ingredients that may offer extra support for healthy blood sugar, the answers are closer than you think. The journey to better health doesn't have to be solitary, complex, or full of denial. It can be rich with flavor, variety, and renewal, one meal at a time. Stay tuned for what comes next. The power to control your glycemia and shape your future rests in your hands, at the end of your fork. The next chapter holds the delicious solutions you've been waiting for.